Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 10 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, friends, today I'm very excited to have another new friend, Craig, on the show. And I met Greg when I was recently at IdeaCon right outside of Chicago. And he really perked my attention when he told me that his library program was called SLaM. And I was like, okay, I got to know more. And just so inspired by the work that he is doing and his story. And I know that all of you will be too. So I had to have you on so everybody could hear all the amazing things that you're doing, Greg. But let's start by saying, just you sharing a little bit about yourself and kind of where you're at now. And I think that it's really interesting too, where you've come from.
Sure. Thanks for having me to start. Uh, I started off in the library world, I should say, in Zion, Illinois, which is basically almost Wisconsin. So I was hired there as a district librarian. I was there for about 7 years. I was the middle school librarian, and I oversaw five elementary buildings. Each had a para in their library. Uh, I kind of ran my course in that district, and actually, someone who I had worked with in Zion, she was our EL director, became the principal at Learn Charter in Waukegan, which is not too far from Zion. So she contacted me and said, we're just kind of starting up. We are looking to add more to our enrichment program. Would you be interested in coming on as a technology teacher? So I said, yeah, I'm interested. I know like half the staff already. So I came down and I basically started our technology enrichment program from the ground up. That previously they had art PE, writing as an enrichment, and a couple others. But I was the first real foray into the tech world in our school. It was a little bit of a shock coming in because I didn't realize that they weren't even one-to-one at this point.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is about 7 years ago. So that was like priority one when I walked in the door was we need a computer for every kid in every class.
Yeah.
That's where I started here. Uh, and then once we got that rolling, the technology teacher thing wasn't really working for me because I was like, yeah, it's kind of boring. We can only do typing or whatever for so long. So I decided to roll it into a STEM class. So with middle school, I ended up adding more engineering and more media type projects. And I tried to set it up because it's a K-8 school so that in kindergarten I'm introducing, and then as we move on, I'm adding skills till eventually we get to sixth, seventh, eighth grade. I don't have to teach those skills anymore, and they can just jump in and it's pretty much full projects the whole way. Then 2 years ago, after fighting for a library space from the beginning, we finally decided to build a library. So we took over an old kindergarten classroom, uh, called our good buddies at Follett, and said, "Hey, we've got a brand new space we'd like to build. How can you help us out?" So we built an entire library, K-8 library from the ground up, and I started implementing some of the library skills into my class. It it was confusing because STEM and library, um, the kids were like, "Well, it's STEM. It's supposed to be technology. Why are we reading books?" I said, "All right, fine. Then it's not STEM anymore." So I had to come up with a name for my hybrid library, STEM, media, everything else I was doing in class. So I started throwing some letters up on a whiteboard and said, "Oh, look, I've got an S, an L, and an M. LMS is kind of used already. So what if I throw an A in the middle?" And it just kind of came out STEM, library, and media. And it covers everything that I teach in the class.
I think that is so amazing. I know, I remember when you told me that, and just like also just your story about not only what you used to teach and kind of how you came to learn charter, but I love also just thinking about how you started a library too, like with your
Hmm.
administrator, and took a classroom, which I used to be in a kindergarten classroom too. And so
Hmm.
we made that connection. And I think that that's just really neat, like to think about that you, I mean, you know that collection so well, you know, like what you put into it, your kids were in mind. Like that's
Hmm.
very inspiring too, to just think about how lucky your kids and teachers in your community are to have that space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kids that I have that have actually now since graduated helped me build the collection too, along with one of our language arts teachers. We
So
just sat
cool.
down in Tidal Wave and said, "All right, give me ideas." We plugged them all in and said, "All right, here's what we've got money wise. Here's what we've got order wise. What can we keep? What can we cut?" And they were really involved, and they've
Wow,
been
that's
really involved since.
well, and what a cool thing, because everybody would have so much ownership over your library
Hmm.
collection and your space and want to use it even more, that
Right.
they would be, that would, I mean, that's just so do you have, like, walk us through like what one of your days looks like too, because I'm sure that people are wondering that, especially because you're in a school where you have kindergarten to eighth grade, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yes, I see about 530 kids a week.
yeah.
I teach kindergarten through eighth grade, so I see every class except for kindergarten, an hour a week. Kindergarten, we do 30 minutes, partly because they just don't fit in our schedule, but partly because we split time and we do our enrichment block is half enrichment and half SEL. So our social workers going in and do an SEL class with the kindergartners. So I typically teach between 5 and 7 classes each day, a range of grade levels. So the way that we have it laid out this year, I usually see my middle school classes first thing in the morning, which they're always a joy at 8:30 in the morning. But and then throughout the day, we kind of go down and back up. So we dip down towards kindergarten in the middle of the day, and then work our way back up third, fourth, fifth towards the end of the day. Because kindergarten at the very end of the day is not easy. I'll tell you that they're tired.
You're
So
tired.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's it's a lot of kind of mind shift during the day because
Yeah.
there are some days where I see eighth grade and then immediately after I see sixth grade and then immediately after I have a second grade class and then half an hour later I see a kindergarten class. So it's a lot of like big kids to little kids. So changing setups and a lot of stuff kind of on the fly. So it's my days are never boring, I'll tell you that much.
Good for you, my friend. Like, I think it's just, I think that's just so amazing. And so my question too in my head is, so you teach media, library, and STEM. And so like, just like tell me an idea, like what you did today. What do
Sure.
your lessons like look like, and what kind of like topics do you cover?
Yeah. So for K1 2, it's mostly basic tech skills. So Kindergarten, I do a little bit of keyboarding. Uh, because I only have them for half an hour, I'm very library focused with them, finding and reading and finding books and that type of thing. And as they get older, I'm doing, let's see, what did I do today? It's eighth grade first. We're doing a Shark Tank project.
Oh,
So
fun.
they're creating prototypes and writing sales pitches and writing a business plan and all that.
That's
Sixth
so
grade, I just finished a big engineering unit. I do about 3 months, 3 or 4 months of engineering with them. That culminates in the bridge project, the popsicle stick bridges. And now we're switching over into architecture. So we're just doing some background info on architecture, and eventually they're going to design a floor plan and build it 3D with cardboard. Uh,
great.
so sixth grade is very engineering focused. Seventh grade is my media course. So we focus on the purposes of media, persuasive media, instructional media, informative media, and entertainment media. So they do a project with each one. They just finished a big advertising project where they had to create an ad and share it with the class, and the class does an ad review and all that. Right now, they're about to start an online portfolio project. So they're going to take all of their work that they've done so far in my class, and they're going to add it into a website. A lot of our kids, because we're a charter, we push them towards some of our private high schools. So our eighth graders are starting to apply and starting to get accepted. So these seventh graders, we build the portfolios in hopes that they can put the link on their portfolio, and it gives them a little edge when they're applying for their scholarships and for things like that. So it's
That's awesome.
huge variety of things that I try to hit.
Huge.
Anything that's not being covered in the classroom already, pretty much.
Wow. You're just a like super, they couldn't live without you. They'd have to have you to do all
Uh,
the things. I
yeah.
think that's just so
And I
amazing.
let them know.
I know. Well, I'm sure that just like the advocating, like I thought in my head, like, you're building a library, like, yes, have to do a lot of advocating as a librarian, but what a great advocacy effort in that itself, because
Mhm.
it speaks like volumes when you show all the great things that you're doing in your classes, but then to have, a wonderful library space for your kids too that you've built like specifically for their needs
Mhm.
is such a great thing too. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. That
Yeah,
was my big thing when I came in is what don't you have here already that I could give? Because we got to send these kids off to high school after 8 years, and I don't want to be the one that lets them fall through and not have what they need. So
yeah.
we make sure that we push our high expectations for every kid in the building is that they leave with whatever skills that they need for high school.
Well, and I think that's so neat too, because being like in a charter school, and I've seen that before where, they really develop like those interests that they have, and so it's so interesting. I think that would be so rewarding because you would get to do so many like student-led type projects and
Mhm.
just exploration with them. And that has to be something because you can tell that you like that yourself. So that has to
Oh
be
yeah.
super passionate about.
Yeah, I tell them, once they get into fourth, fifth grade, it's projects. So,
Yeah.
if you're looking at your grades and you say, well, why do we only have one grade? Because we've been working on the same project for about 6 weeks now. So it's a lot to get used to, but I had a kid come back from high school earlier in the year, and he said, I'm glad that you pushed us through the way that you did, because when he got to his high school classes, he took an engineering class and said, well, a lot of the stuff that we learned in there, we learned in your class, so it was easy. My intro to business class, we learned half of that stuff when we did our Shark Tank project. So I already had a head start on the other kids in my class. So, that's kind of what we're trying to do here. That's our goal, is to have college ready kids when they leave.
Yep. That's awesome. They're again, like they're so lucky to have you in that sense. Do you have an associate?
An associate? What's
Like,
that? Nope. I have me and I have myself and I
yeah.
have my library club.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I was going to say you have a library club. I
yeah. Oh
remember you
yeah.
saying that.
Yeah, I've got about 20 kids, fifth grade through eighth grade, who come into the library Thursday mornings before school, and they divide themselves into teams. So I've got my library organization team, who's my scanning masters who scan all the books and get them all up on the shelves. I've got an advocacy team, and we use a bead stack as our kind of our reading tracking program. So they come up with all the challenges and the incentives, and they do all the communication for that. And then the other group is our events committee. So they go out and they created our literacy night that we had about a month ago, and they created all of the activities. They made all of the materials for it. They ran the room. I told all the teachers that were going to volunteer to stay. I said, all you have to do is sit there and be the adult in the room, and everybody else is going to run everything else for you.
That
So, I put it all in their hands, and I say, this is your group, this is your event. I'm just the guy who's here. Whatever you guys want to do, let me know, and I'll do the best I can to try and make it happen.
support you. Oh, I love that. I know the student groups are one of my favorite things. Like I just love seeing like them pour their heart into it and having kids just really shine on their
Mhm.
own. It's just such a neat thing. I love
Yeah, I've
that.
I have a media club too, and we do the news twice a week and all that. So there's a lot of crossover between my two groups, but which is nice because anytime we have an event, they're already thinking in their head, all right, how can we promote this on the news?
Oh, that's so great. So I have one more thing in my head that I'm thinking of. So in your library, does your library have like a makerspace too?
Kind of. My
Yeah.
my space is it's not huge.
Yeah.
It's a weird shape. It's very long.
Yes.
So it's I've got all my bookshelves that take up most of the space. I have maker materials, but I don't know
Yeah.
that I've considered a full maker space. I have just kind of cabinets full of stuff, for lack of a better
Yes.
word,
Well,
building
like my
stuff.
library. Yeah.
Yeah, right now all of my cabinets, I've got like 15 cardboard boxes stacked on top of them because I'm just collecting cardboard for, you never know when you need cardboard for something.
Oh.
So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff. I've got, snap circuits, and we do 3D pens. These kids go crazy for a 3D pen. Uh, Legos and all that kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I try to just kind of let them loose once a month or every so often. So like next week is the week before spring break. So it's just going to be a STEM exploration day. So they can pull out any STEM kit that they want. They can play with it. They can, switch off and play in partners or whatever they want to do. And they just get to have some time building and exploring.
That's so fun. I love it. Well, your kids are really super lucky and your teachers to have you because
Thank
I
you.
think that what you've done and just the passion that you have for your school and the program and these kids is just something that we all can learn from. So I'm grateful that you joined us and shared and I was so excited to meet you at IdeaCon and
Oh
just
yeah.
hear all the amazing things that you're doing.
I was happy to join you. This
I
is
know, it's
this is
great.
my first podcast
I
that I'm
love
not
it.
well, that I'm not, running with a kid or something.
I absolutely love it. One more thing before we go.
Hmm.
One thing that you said too, as we were talking like before, is something about leading from the library. And you said something earlier, that they're very fortunate to have you. And you said, I make sure that they know it. And so I would
Oh,
love for you
absolutely.
just to touch on that because that's something that that I'm very passionate about is, leading from the library. And so I would just love to have you inspire all of our listeners as we wrap up today.
Sure. I have a little saying that I just kind of keep in my head. Uh, be indispensable and be undeniable. So I make sure that everything that I do has a purpose and that my admin team sees that. I'm the team lead for our enrichment team. So I'm very involved with kind of the building leadership part, and I make sure that enrichment is just as important to admin team, to the teachers, and to the students as any of their core classes. And I try to do a little bit of everything because having a foot in the door and saying, all right, I'm pushing really hard for the technology part. I'm pushing really hard on the library and the literacy part. I'm doing everything that I can. So let's band together and let's keep pushing in all of our subjects. Let's keep, innovating and trying new things and taking risks and doing everything that we can to make sure that our kids are getting the best experience that they possibly can.
Yeah, that's so great. That's one of the best sayings that I've ever heard. So you need to have that on your wall. I'm going to write that down so I
Well,
remember
let me get
too.
it tattooed on
But
my arm or something.
I know, I think you should definitely have to let me know because that is amazing. But I can't believe this was your first podcast, my friend, because you're just doing great things. And I would
Thank you.
love for you to tell people where they can find you on social. I think you're on Blue Sky.
I am on Blue Sky. I'm recently on Blue Sky, so I would love to remember what my thing is on Blue Sky. On Blue
I'll
Sky,
tell you,
I am
Mr.
Mr.
Baker
Baker
Slam.
Slam.
Yes,
Yeah,
I love
I
that.
gave up on the Twitter thing
Went to
and
Blue
I
Sky.
yeah.
Well, I know that our listeners are going to be connecting with you. You'll have lots of new friends, but keep doing amazing things. And I can't wait to just continue following what you do. And you have some lucky kids there. So thanks for everything that you shared. And I love the SLaM. I gotta say, it's like the best thing ever. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Greg.
Thank you, Shannon.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future-ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or to my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help and support each and every one of you. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.